Now we're going to talk to an old friend of ours, Sam Seder. Sam, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, Cenk. Thanks for having me.
It's been a while, man. I missed you.
Yeah, well, I've had you in my office quite a while.
Get out of here. That's awesome. Where'd you find that?
Well, the office that they stuck me in at Air America is basically the storage room. And so we have all the old posters and whatnot here. That's basically my job now, is I'm just in charge of the storage room.
All right, Sam, let's talk about some of the events that is going on today. Townhall Events, out of control. Did you see the guy that showed up with a gun at Obama's town hall?
Of course. That's the best argument as to why we don't need health care reform, because if we get it, then conservatives will shoot the rest of us. And so, obviously, that's a net loss for our health, and that's why we shouldn't have reform.
Did you see the guy who was, pushed down at one of the events, taking his word for it? Kenneth Gladney, the video shows him falling, certainly, along with a couple of the union guys. And then he shows up in a wheelchair, and it turns out he doesn't have health care insurance?
Oh, right, yes, and this is the guy, exactly. I mean, look, what we have going on now it's really astonishing. You have people like Sarah Palin and the former lieutenant governor of New York State essentially putting out all these type of lies. And, of course, the Becks and the Limbaughs and all these, even the Dick Armeys, for that matter. And you have Republican leaders putting out these bald-faced lies, the euthanasia one, to people who have a very narrow scope of sources for their news. And they're already paranoid. That's part of the makeup of the conservative mind, the sense that the gays are coming to get us, the blacks are coming to get us, the Muslims are coming to get us, whatever the scourge du jour is for them. And so you have this mix, and what's going on now is just, it's unbelievable. What really is unbelievable, not so much to me that you have these dupes who come and a guy whose kid is clearly on public assistance because he needs it for his cerebral palsy, and he's worried that somehow the government is going to mess with his Medicare or Medicaid. That doesn't surprise me. What surprises me is that you have the mainstream media who are sitting back and not pouncing on these people for their public statements. I mean, you remember when Move On was censured for saying that Petraeus was going to betray us. I mean, they were censured on the Senate floor. That Move On, the idea that somebody submitted an ad comparing Bush to Hitler, this required the entire country to stop in its tracks and censure this organization. Well, you now have the titular head of the Republican Party calling Obama a Nazi. This is where the mainstream media is supposed to step in and be adults, and of course they're not doing it.
Yeah, I don't know if we're ever going to get past it. I mean, look, as I look at those two issues, how the media covers all of these policy issues, and health care in specific, and how the Democrats are always the weaker party, no matter how many people they have in power, Sam, I get a little discouraged because, I mean, how many times have we, explained the double standard? I mean, you take the double standard with the guy with the gun today. If a left-winger showed up with a gun at a Bush rally, how quickly would they have taken his ass down? Now, imagine if it was
If a left-winger showed up at a Bush rally with a John Kerry T-shirt, they took him down. I mean, literally, that happened multiple times.
And then there was a kid who was a little too liberal in asking a question to John Kerry of all people, and they tased him, right? And
right.
And then this guy shows up with a gun with a sign that says, the tree of liberty must be watered every once in a while, meaning with the blood of tyrants, meaning he's looking to kill the leader, right? I mean, this is the same T-shirt that McVeigh wore before the Oklahoma City bombing. I mean, on that note, first, should we be legitimately concerned that somebody's going to do something profoundly stupid here?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, it would be irrational not to think that this is going to progress in that direction. I mean, honestly, it would be irrational. You would be ignoring every possible sign. You have, one guy, people first show up and they shout down their congressman or other people who want to ask legitimate questions, and then people show up with guns. I mean, what's the next step? I mean, honestly, of course, something horrible is going to happen. Of Of course.
And J.R., our producer, was making this point earlier. He said, look, liberals have guns too, and God forbid, what happens when both sides show up with guns?
Right.
It's
well,
a disaster
obviously,
in the making.
this escalates in some way, and what there needs to be is a larger outcry from some quarters, really shaming people who egg this stuff on. But I agree with you. I mean, this is. I don't know that the mainstream media is ever going to respond to this, and frankly, I don't know. The idea that we have 60 Democrats and the debate on health care is where it's at this point is ridiculous in my estimation. And if we don't get a robust public option in this, ultimately this health care insurance reform, I don't really know what the point is of having 60 Democrats in office.
Yeah, Sam, I mean, that's where I'm going next. I mean, do we get to the point where we say, what's the point? I mean, like, why are we even trying? Because if there's no public option after we gave them every single branch of government with literally overwhelming majorities, I mean, if they come back and say, no, we need 70 senators to do it, I mean, you got to laugh, I mean, that's ridiculous. So what can we possibly do if they screw us on this?
Well, I don't know what comes after this, frankly. I mean, the only thing that's been somewhat disappointing to me is that there has not been an organized, as far as I can tell, I mean, now we're starting to see it a little bit with some of the unions, but there hasn't been a concerted effort on the left to really push this agenda. Maybe there was a certain amount of cockiness that 60 senators would be enough, that controlling the House, the Senate, and the presidency would be enough. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but in retrospect, had Barack Obama or had there been a strong contingency in the House early on in this debate come out very forcefully, or we're gonna do single payer, and we're going to ram it down your throats, and that should have been the starting point. That should have been where this debate started from. You have to convince us why we shouldn't have a single payer system.
Well, how do you see it now? Do you think that that we're going to lose on the public option? Because I think we're going to have health care reform either way. There's no way Obama doesn't sign something, right? The question is whether it's real or fake, right? And where do you think that stands now? Do you think it's going to have the public option and hence be real, or are they just going to do this nonsense without one and pretend they did reform?
I mean, to be honest with you, I'd be talking out of my butt. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, I could give you a good argument that guys showing up with guns at these town hall meetings is actually helping the cause of the public option because it makes opposition to it look completely insane. Or I could argue that some of these blue dogs are going to come back and say, boy, there's some real anger out there. There's no way I'm going to support something like this.
They're not that stupid, are they, Sam? I mean, that's not the issue. I mean, I think the question is how much money they're getting from the healthcare industry. Because I don't think, after looking at all the facts, I mean, these guys the people bussing these guys in and telling them how to create disturbances are obvious healthcare industry front groups. I mean, the blue dogs aren't stupid enough to believe that they're real, are they?
Well, it's not so much a question of if they sincerely believe it's real. It's really a question of how it's perceived in society. I mean, that's where the mainstream media comes in. If the mainstream media is creating this false equivalency to what we're seeing in terms of these healthcare debates with, let's say, the protests that went on to protect Social Security. If you create that false equivalency, it gives the person who wants to sort of worm out of this some type of cover. And so it's less about what they sincerely believe and more about what they perceive other people to believe.
Right. That's a very good point, because in the end they want to take the money. They don't, they got to be forced into doing the right thing, because it's not for the blue dogs. It's not in their inclination. It's that they want.
They need to be able to go back to those guys who are giving them money and say, like, look, I did my best, but what am I going to do? You want me still here, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's really going to come down to a couple of senators from states that have about as many people who are literally sitting in their apartments within a 1-mile radius of where I'm sitting in New York City. And that's sort of obscene in a way.
Yeah.
that you're going to allow, a Max Baucus or a Conrad to have that type of sway over this debate.
Well, we're talking to Sam Seder. Sam, one more question for you. If it turns out Obama does not get us a public option and gets us health care reform that isn't really much of reform, do you put him in the Bill Clinton category? Because I know you had issues with Clinton and how far to the right he ran and how he missed an opportunity to be a real progressive.
Well, I mean, look, I don't know what's left. I mean, I thought the stimulus was too small. I think we're, at best going to have a jobless recovery, and I don't really, frankly, consider that much of a recovery. And I don't like what has happened in terms of, what we've given away to the banks. And so, after health care, I'm not sure exactly what's left. I mean, there's been a lot of things that he's done in terms of maintaining some of the Bush policies on signing statements or on Guantanamo, but this health care, in terms of a real progressive agenda, this is incredibly important, and it's not just Obama's to blow in this instance; it's also someone like Harry Reid's to blow, and so. Yeah, I have real concerns, and frankly, I think he should have concerns from electoral standpoint, because I think if you come out with something that is just health insurance reform in name only, that's going to get really slammed, and I think that's going to hurt politically.
Well, you would think so. We'll see how it develops. Sam Seder, man, it's always great to talk to you. We really appreciate you coming.
Thanks, Jack. We'll see you in Pittsburgh, yes?
I'll see you in Pittsburgh, and then Sam's going to host a show next week for a couple of days, so everybody's looking forward to that.